It is a big, bold claim, but if you look at today's armies, navies and air forces, you can trace a lineage that goes back through the Second World War, the First World War, and I think back to the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. But what we're dealing with now are armed forces that have to be ready for war in the digital age. So they're going to be shaped by the combination of data in the cloud and AI and robotics and autonomy and new materials and bioscience and quantum computing. And that really is the equivalent of all the technologies you think about over the last 150 years arriving at once. So it's like the submarine, the aeroplane, the machine gun, the telegraph, the internet, all arriving at once. And the challenge for today's armed forces is those that are going to win and therefore deter will be those that can grasp this transformation. And that means they're going to not just equip differently, they're going to organize differently, and they're going to find new ways of working. It's really only a massive ask if you were determined to preserve the ways of working from, say, the 1980s. And I don't think anyone either remembers or really wants to do that. But for most of the people in today's armed forces, they really are of the digital age. And so when we talk about AI and data in the cloud and autonomy, they get it because they're seeing it in many other ways in their lives. And the trick today is for today's armed forces to look at the technology that exists mostly in the civil sector and then think about and experiment with how to apply it at work in the armed forces. And this isn't an event, it's not going to happen on one day. It's a process that's going to unfold 4 years at pace and scale. And it ought to be where British ingenuity is at its very best. So there's been experimentation, and if we start with what we mean by an integrated force, so if you look through history, there was an army and a navy, and then a little while later there was an air force, and over the last 150 years or so, they've learnt to collaborate. And we've called jointery the collaboration between three services. That doesn't work so well in the digital age, so we're talking now about an integrated force where there'll be a single top-down plan directed by the Chief of Defence Staff, led by the Chief of Defence Staff, which essentially works out a couple of important things. First of all, the part the Army, Navy and Air Force will play in this single integrated plan, and they'll do that to the best of their abilities. And then secondly, you can really only have one data foundation, and in the review it's called the Digital Targeting Network as an example. So we're going to have a common digital foundation in which everything else in defence plugs into. It'll take some time to build it, but it's the right way to go. So it is a massive transformation, and it will take time to invest in and resource and make work. But if you look at some of the things that are going on in all three services, where they're experimenting with drones and autonomy and AI and data in the cloud, it's already happening. What I think we have to be careful about is armed forces are naturally quite conservative, and when shown a piece of technology, they tend to want to accessorize how they work. It does make them go a bit faster. This transformation is not about that. This transformation is about how you take this technology and think and organize, plan, operate it and equip differently. So what we're looking for are the ideas that essentially Uberize the Navy or the Air Force or the Army. It's that profound change. It will take time, and not everything gets thrown away at once. So you're still going to need in the Navy ships with people on it. It's just they'll come in the future with autonomous platforms that collaborate with them, with more drones and autonomous submarines and satellite capability. And it's that mix which will be transformative. So I think most people would accept that the UK has had more than 35 years of not having to worry about really being at war, and now it has to start to think about it again. So there is a journey to travel. I don't think we have to panic, because it's not as if we sense these sorts of attacks are imminent. But if you look at important things like the cables that deliver the internet to this country, and we all rely on it, well, maybe we should protect them a bit better. If you recognise how much we all rely on access to space, just for example, for the GPS in our phones to function, well, maybe we should protect that access. And we definitely know that 95% of the things we use in the UK arrive by sea, so maybe we need to make sure that maritime trade is functioning. And there are many, many, many other examples, and that you can play them right across NATO. So no need to panic, but we are on a journey, and the sooner we get down that path and restore our national resilience, which is a whole of society thing, and restore the ability of the armed forces to credibly deter, because they can fight, a state-level opponent, which is a very different challenge from, say, a campaign in Iraq or Afghanistan that I participated in, the better we'll be. We were really careful with our review. We were asked to look at UK defence, and then we were asked to say, what do you get for 2.5% of GDP in 27-28, so that's 1st of April 27, rising to 3% of GDP by no later than 2034. We are confident that our 60 plus recommendations are affordable within that profile. It'll be tight, not everything happens at once, and that profile runs over 9 years. We're also absolutely clear that may be how this goes, or perhaps the world becomes extremely cordial again and we can try less hard. That seems to be unlikely. But the point is, the path we set out in the review is such, if you had to go faster because you feel more threatened, then you can go faster. It will cost you more money sooner. That isn't the question we were asked. I'm really excited by the transformation that we've put in the review. It's about not just the revitalisation of our armed forces, but also transforming them to be ready for the drama of our times. And in my view, I'm really jealous, because there's never been a better time to join the Army, Navy or Air Force. There's so much to play for. It's so important, and the help is coming. So go for it.